Welcome back, coin hunters. Today we're looking at 4 rare and potentially valuable Lincoln Memorial pennies that could be hiding in collections, old jars, rolls, or even everyday pocket change. These small 1-cent coins may look ordinary at first, but certain dates, mint marks, varieties, errors, and exceptional conditions can make them much more desirable to collectors. The big question is simple. Do you have one? In this video, we'll explore the history of these Lincoln Memorial pennies, the special details collectors look for, and why certain examples can attract significant attention in today's coin market. So before you spend that old penny, take a close look at the date, mint mark, and overall condition. You may be looking at a coin that deserves a much closer examination. Let's get started. First up, the 1966 Lincoln Memorial penny is one of those fascinating United States coins that can easily be overlooked because it looks like an ordinary 1-cent piece at first glance. But when collectors examine the date, the missing mint mark, the condition, the strike quality, and especially any unusual varieties, this coin becomes much more interesting. The 1966 Lincoln cent was produced without a mint mark, and this was intentional rather than an error. More than 2.18 billion regular 1966 cents were struck, making the date widely available, but exceptional examples can still attract strong collector attention. If you have a 1966 penny in very rough condition, the coin may not automatically be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, but the real excitement begins when a coin shows a valuable variety, an unusual error, or exceptional preservation hidden beneath years of circulation. That is exactly why collectors continue to examine these older Lincoln Memorial cents carefully. To understand why the 1966 penny is interesting, we need to go back to the history of the United States coin shortage of the 1960s. During this period, Americans were saving large quantities of coins, creating pressure on the nation's coin supply. From 1965 through 1967, U.S. coinage was produced without mint marks as part of the government's response to the shortage. This means that seeing no mint mark on a 1966 Lincoln cent is completely normal. The coin features Victor David Brenner's famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, while the reverse carries Frank Gasparo's Lincoln Memorial design. The regular 1966 business strike cent was struck in the traditional copper-based composition used during this period and weighs about 3.11 grams. That combination of historical background, recognizable design, and an unusual no-mint mark period gives the 1966 cent a special place in the Memorial Cent series. Now let's look closely at the features that make a 1966 Lincoln penny worth examining. On the front, you should see the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing right, with the inscriptions Liberty and In God We Trust, along with the date 1966. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial dominates the design, surrounded by United States of America, EPLURBUSUNUM, 1 cent, and the denomination. One of the first things collectors notice is the complete absence of a mint mark beneath the date. But remember, this absence is expected for 1966 cents, and should not by itself be advertised as a rare minting mistake. The more important clues are the quality of the strike, the color, surface preservation, possible double details, die varieties, and unusual minting characteristics. For a collector searching through old coins, these small details can turn an ordinary-looking cent into a much more interesting numismatic discovery. The condition of your particular 1966 penny becomes extremely important when discussing value. A coin described as very rough has normally experienced substantial circulation, and that kind of wear generally places it in a much lower market category than a sharply preserved, uncirculated specimen. However, rough condition does not mean the coin is worthless to collectors. An older coin can still be historically interesting, especially when it has an unusual variety or error. Collectors often examine the lettering, Lincoln's portrait, the memorial columns, the date, and the overall surface under magnification. They are looking for characteristics that separate a standard circulated coin from something genuinely unusual. This is where the hunt becomes exciting, because the value of a coin is not determined by its age alone. A 1966 cent with a dramatic recognized variety can be far more interesting than an ordinary example from the same year. The biggest opportunity with a 1966 Lincoln cent comes from identifying varieties and exceptional examples rather than simply seeing the missing mint mark. Modern research into the 1966 cent includes major die varieties, including double die varieties that can command dramatically different prices from ordinary examples. Some market guides report that exceptional condition rarity examples can reach into the thousands of dollars, while certain major varieties have attracted even stronger attention. This is why serious collectors do not stop after reading the date. They inspect the coin carefully under good lighting and magnification, comparing the lettering and design details with known varieties. If a coin appears to have unusual doubling, repunched characteristics, an off-center strike, a major die break, or another legitimate minting error, professional authentication can become extremely important. When people hear the words 1966 penny worth thousands, it is important to understand what actually creates that level of value. A normal circulated 1966 no-mint mark Lincoln cent is not automatically a $100 or $1,000 coin. Current reference information places ordinary examples at relatively modest values, while high-grade and special examples can command much more. Numista's current reference data lists the regular 1966 issue across low values depending on condition, while a separate special mint set issue from 1966 is a distinct collectible category. PCGS auction records also show how dramatically condition affects the market. One certified 1966 MS65 red example sold for $10 in a 2020 auction, while the PCGS price guide associated with that certified example listed $18. These figures demonstrate an important point for collectors. The highest prices are connected to exceptional characteristics, certification, grade, and rarity, not simply the fact that the coin is from 1966. Another fascinating part of the 1966 story is the special mint set. Although regular 1966 cents were struck in enormous numbers, a much smaller number of 1966 special mint set pieces were produced, with reference sources listing about 2.26 million. These pieces can display a noticeably different quality and appearance compared with ordinary circulation strikes. If you have a 1966 penny that looks unusually sharp, clean, and strongly struck, it deserves closer examination. The difference between an ordinary circulated cent and a special or exceptionally preserved specimen can be significant in the collector market. This is why collectors should never judge a coin only from a quick glance. Details such as surface quality, color designation, strike, luster, and certification can all influence how the market views the coin. For someone holding a very rough 1966 Lincoln penny, the most exciting step is inspection. Look carefully at the date and confirm that it reads 1966. Check beneath the date and remember that the absence of a mint mark is normal for this year. Examine Lincoln's portrait, the lettering, and the reverse memorial design under magnification. Look for strong doubling or other unusual characteristics that appear consistently rather than damage caused by circulation. Also inspect the edge for anything unusual and compare the weight and appearance with known specifications. If something genuinely unusual appears, do not clean or polish the coin. Cleaning can damage the original surface and potentially reduce collector appeal. Instead, preserve the coin exactly as you found it, and consider obtaining an opinion from a reputable numismatic expert or professional grading service. The market potential of the 1966 Lincoln Memorial Penny, therefore, depends on which version you actually have. A heavily circulated ordinary example generally belongs in the common value category, while a high-grade certified coin can move into a more interesting collector range. Exceptional condition rarity pieces and recognized major varieties can reach hundreds or even thousands of dollars according to published market information. That creates the real treasure hunt appeal of this coin. You could search through a box of old cents and discover that most are ordinary, yet one coin may deserve additional research because of its condition, variety, or unusual minting characteristic. Collectors are not simply buying the metal, they are buying rarity, history, preservation, and the story behind a particular piece. So before you dismiss a 1966 Lincoln Memorial Penny as just another old 1-cent coin, take another look. The no-mint mark feature is historically significant because it reflects the special U.S. coin production policy of the 1965-1967 period, while the enormous regular mintage means that true value must come from condition, variety, errors, or special characteristics rather than age alone. If your example is very rough, enjoy it as a piece of American coinage history. But if you discover an unusual variety or a remarkable minting characteristic, that is when the story can become much more exciting. The 1966 Lincoln Memorial Penny proves that even an ordinary-looking coin can deserve a second look, and that is exactly what makes coin collecting so fascinating. Sometimes the most interesting discovery is hiding in plain sight. Important value note: Market values change with grade, certification, color designation, variety, error status, authenticity, demand, and actual auction results. A normal heavily circulated 1966 Lincoln cent should not be presented as automatically worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. The higher values discussed here apply to specifically identified exceptional examples, recognized varieties, unusual errors, or very high-grade certified coins. Always verify the exact variety and current auction records before making a buying or selling decision. PCGS maintains an auction price database for Lincoln cents and other U.S. coins for checking realized market results. Next up, the 1974 Lincoln Memorial Cent was struck at the Denver Mint during an important period in U.S. coinage, when the mint was producing enormous quantities of cents for everyday commerce. More than 4.2 billion 1974 cents were produced, making this a widely issued coin, but that does not mean every surviving example is identical in collector appeal. Today, collectors pay close attention to condition, color, strike quality, surface preservation, varieties, and unusual characteristics when evaluating these coins. The 1974 cent is made from the traditional bronze composition used for Lincoln cents of this era, with approximately 95% copper and 5% zinc, weighs about 3.11 grams, and measures 19 millimeters across. The history behind this coin makes it even more interesting. The Lincoln Memorial design had been introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, replacing the famous wheat reverse that had been used for decades. On the obverse, Lincoln's portrait dominates the design, with Liberty appearing to the left, the date 1974 to the right, and In God We Trust above. Because this particular coin was struck at Denver, the identifying D mint mark appears below the date. On the reverse is the iconic Lincoln Memorial Building, surrounded by United States of America and 1 cent, with EPLUOBUSUNUM above the memorial. The obverse was designed by Victor David Brenner, while Frank Gasparo created the memorial reverse, giving the 1974 cent a combination of two important artistic traditions in American coinage. One of the most exciting aspects of the 1974 Lincoln cent series is that the year itself was an important transitional moment in cent production. The mint was investigating alternatives to the traditional copper composition, and experimental aluminium cents were produced in 1974, although those pieces were not released as regular coins to the public. At the same time, the 1974 cents are associated with design changes, including differences involving the reverse and the treatment of the designer's initials. Collectors interested in the 1974 issue therefore have more to investigate than simply the date and mint mark. When examining a 1974 cent, the reverse should be studied carefully, the lettering should be examined, the designer's initials should be inspected, and the overall quality of the strike should be considered. These small details can make the hunt much more exciting for collectors. Now let's focus specifically on a 1974 Lincoln Memorial penny in very fine condition. A very fine coin has experienced noticeable circulation, but important design details remain clearly visible. Lincoln's portrait can still show substantial definition, the lettering remains readable, and the reverse can retain recognizable details of the Lincoln Memorial and surrounding inscriptions. For collectors, condition is one of the most important factors in determining desirability, because two coins carrying exactly the same date and mint mark can have dramatically different market positions depending on preservation. A 1974 cent with attractive surfaces, a strong strike, pleasing color, and minimal distracting marks can receive considerably more attention than an ordinary heavily circulated example. That is why collectors should never judge an old penny simply by looking at its face value. The copper composition is another reason the 1974 cent remains interesting. These cents belong to the classic bronze era of the Lincoln Memorial series, before the major transition to copper-plated zinc cents in the early 1980s. Over decades, copper coins can develop different appearances depending on storage and environmental exposure. Collectors may encounter brown, reddish-brown, and red examples, and professionally graded coins can receive color designations that influence collector demand. A coin that has preserved attractive original red coloration can be particularly appealing, because maintaining that appearance over more than 5 decades is much more difficult than simply keeping a coin in existence. This is where the distinction between an ordinary circulated penny and a premium quality collectible example becomes especially important. When people hear the phrase, rare penny, they often immediately imagine a coin worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. The 1974 cent is a perfect example of why collectors need to look beyond the date alone. Its mintage of 4,235,098,000 means the normal issue is not scarce in the traditional sense. However, exceptional individual coins can become much more desirable when they combine outstanding preservation, attractive color, strong eye appeal, certification, and a high grade. PCGS records an auction result of $950 for a 1974 cent graded VF25 RD, demonstrating that an individual example can command a dramatically higher price than the face value of 1 cent. This is the kind of information that makes the 1974 worth examining rather than automatically spending it. The current market story becomes even more interesting when we move into higher grade examples. Professional grading services distinguish between circulated grades, such as very fine, and uncirculated grades, such as M-60 and above. A certified high-grade coin can attract attention from specialists who are building registry sets or searching for superior examples of the Lincoln Memorial series. PCGS lists the 1974 regular strike cent in several color categories, including brown, red-brown, and red, showing how collectors evaluate more than just the numerical grade. PCGS also records an MS64 brown example at $299 in a heritage auction sale, illustrating how a professionally graded example can move far beyond ordinary circulated values. For a very fine 1974 penny specifically, collectors should understand that the most spectacular prices reported for exceptional examples do not automatically apply to every coin of the same date and mint mark. Current reference sources place ordinary 1974 examples at much more modest levels, while exceptional certified coins can reach significantly higher prices. USA Coin Book, for example, currently lists an estimated value of $1.24 or more for an uncirculated 1974 example, while Numista's current reference figures also show relatively modest values for normal examples across circulated and uncirculated grades. This contrast is exactly why condition, certification, color, variety, and actual auction performance are so important when discussing a coin that may attract serious collector interest. So if you have a 1974 Lincoln Memorial penny in very fine condition, the real excitement comes from examining it carefully and asking whether there is something that separates your example from the ordinary coins that survived in large numbers. Look closely at Lincoln's portrait, the date, the D mint mark, the lettering, the memorial building, and the overall surfaces. Pay attention to unusual doubling, die characteristics, striking differences, attractive original color, and any features that might deserve professional examination. A coin that appears ordinary at first glance can become much more interesting when a specialist identifies a significant variety or an unusually strong combination of grade and eye appeal. The collector market rewards research, careful examination, and exceptional preservation, which is why every 1974 cent deserves a closer look before it is dismissed as just another penny. And finally, the biggest lesson from the 1974 Lincoln Memorial cent is that value is created by the specific coin, not simply by the number printed on the date. This is a fascinating piece of American history that connects everyday commerce with the evolution of U.S. coin production. A normal circulated example may remain close to face value, but premium certified pieces, unusual varieties, exceptional color, and extraordinary preservation can create much stronger collector demand, with documented sales reaching into the hundreds of dollars and, in exceptional cases, approaching the $1,000 level. So before you spend a 1974 Lincoln Memorial penny, turn it over, inspect every detail, and consider having an especially attractive example professionally evaluated. The market changes over time, and auction prices can vary substantially depending on grade, certification, color, variety, authenticity, and buyer demand. The values discussed here are reference market examples rather than a guarantee that every 1974 penny will sell for hundreds or thousands of dollars, but the documented results show exactly why serious collectors continue to examine these classic Lincoln cents with enthusiasm. Next up, the 1975 cent was produced in enormous numbers, about 4.5 billion pieces, and PCGS describes examples through MS66 as common, while much higher grade pieces become considerably scarcer. That is where the excitement begins, because the value story of this coin is not simply about its 1 cent face value. It is about the difference between an ordinary circulated example and a truly exceptional coin that has survived decades with outstanding preservation. The 1975 Lincoln Memorial Cent belongs to the famous Lincoln Memorial Cent series that began in 1959, replacing the wheat reverse and introducing the memorial design created by Frank Gasparo. The obverse continues the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, originally designed by Victor David Brenner, with "In God We Trust," Liberty, and the date 1975. On the reverse is the Lincoln Memorial surrounded by the inscriptions United States of America, EPLURBUSUNUM, and 1 cent. The Denver Mint is identified by the small D mint mark below the date. The coin was struck in the traditional bronze composition used for these cents, weighing about 3.11 grams and measuring approximately 19 millimeters across. For collectors, every one of these details matters because they establish exactly which issue is being examined and help determine whether a particular specimen deserves a closer look. One of the most fascinating features of the 1975 Lincoln Memorial penny is the way condition can completely change its collector appeal. A coin described as very good or similarly circulated has already experienced substantial handling, and its market value is generally close to the ordinary level for a common circulated 1975 cent. Current marketplace listings show circulated examples around the low dollar range, while price guides also place ordinary examples close to face value, but this does not mean the year is uninteresting. Quite the opposite, collectors searching through large numbers of these coins are looking for exceptional survivors, strong strikes, attractive red color, unusual varieties, and certified high-grade pieces. That creates an exciting treasure hunt effect, because the same date and mint mark can represent a very different collecting opportunity, depending on exactly what is sitting in front of you. The D mint mark is another important detail that every collector should learn to recognize. It tells us that the coin was produced at the Denver Mint rather than Philadelphia. On a 1975 cent, the mint mark appears beneath the date on the obverse. When examining a coin, collectors should look closely at the date, the mint mark, Lincoln's portrait, the lettering, and the overall surfaces. Strong details can help identify a well-preserved example, while unusual doubling, die characteristics, or other legitimate mint-made varieties can make an individual coin considerably more interesting. It is important, however, to distinguish genuine varieties from ordinary damage or wear. A filled or distorted letter, for example, is not automatically a valuable error. The strongest value stories come from varieties and errors that are recognized by reputable numismatic specialists and supported by documented sales. The biggest surprise surrounding the 1975 issue comes when we move from ordinary circulated coins into the world of certified high-grade specimens. PCGS records an auction record of $4,112.50 for a 1975 Lincoln Cent graded MS67+, sold through Heritage Auctions in March 2014. That result demonstrates why condition rarity can be so important. The coin itself is common in general terms, but finding an example that reaches an extraordinary certified grade is a completely different challenge. Heritage described an MS67+ example as a superb gem and noted its exceptional quality. This is the part of the story that can make collectors stop and look twice. Billions were made, yet the finest surviving examples can command prices thousands of times higher than 1 cent. There is an important distinction between a very good 1975 penny and a superb mint state specimen. A very good coin has visible circulation and wear, while a high-grade mint state coin must preserve the characteristics of a coin that has avoided normal circulation damage. Collectors at the upper end pay close attention to luster, original red color, surface marks, strike sharpness, spots, carbon, and the overall visual quality of the coin. PCGS estimates that while huge numbers of 1975 cents survive, the population becomes dramatically more interesting at the highest grades, with MS67 pieces described as much scarcer. This is why a collector should never judge a 1975 penny only by its age. A coin from 1975 is more than 50 years old in 2026, but age alone does not make it rare. Preservation and exceptional quality are what can transform a common date into a premium collectible. The market also gives us another important comparison. PCGS records a $9,000 auction result for a 1975 Lincoln Cent graded MS68 red, showing how spectacularly valuable the very finest examples of this year can become. This $9,000 result was for a 1975 cent rather than specifically the 1975D issue, so it should not be presented as the normal value of every 1975D penny. Instead, it demonstrates the enormous premium that the market can place on extraordinary condition. For a 1975D coin, the documented high-grade auction record above $4,000 is the more relevant benchmark. In other words, the exciting possibility is real, but the highest dollar amounts belong to specifically graded and exceptional specimens rather than ordinary circulated coins. For today's collector, the most interesting approach is to treat the 1975D penny as a search coin. If you find one in very good condition, examine it carefully rather than immediately dismissing it. Check that the date is clearly 1975, confirm the Denver D, inspect the lettering and Lincoln's portrait, and turn the coin over to study the memorial reverse. Look for unusual characteristics that appear genuinely mint-made rather than damage caused after the coin left the mint. If the coin has unusually strong preservation, attractive original red color, and minimal marks, it may deserve professional evaluation. Certified examples can be especially important when discussing high-dollar values because a professional grade provides a standardized assessment that buyers and auction houses can rely upon. When discussing current market value, the most responsible way to present the 1975D Lincoln Memorial Penny is to separate ordinary examples from exceptional ones. A circulated 1975D cent can remain close to face value, with current marketplace examples often appearing around roughly $1 or slightly more depending on presentation and selling venue. Better preserved uncirculated examples can bring higher amounts, while certified high-grade red specimens can move into the tens, hundreds, and for extraordinary grades thousands of dollars. PCGS documented $4,112.50 auction record for an MS67 plus 1975D provides a genuine high-end benchmark. So when a video says that a 1975D penny can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars, the key is understanding that such values are connected to exceptional condition, certification, and collector demand, not simply the presence of the year and D mint mark. The 1975D Lincoln Memorial Penny is therefore a perfect example of why coin collecting remains so exciting. More than $4 billion was struck at Denver, yet the finest survivors occupy a completely different category from ordinary pocket change pieces. A coin that looks ordinary under normal circumstances can become fascinating when examined under magnification, compared with certified examples, and studied for condition, color, strike, and legitimate varieties. The documented auction history proves that exceptional 1975D cents have attracted serious collector money, with the top recorded PCGS auction result reaching $4,112.50. So before you spend, trade, or overlook that old Lincoln Memorial penny, take another look at the date and the tiny D. The real opportunity is not that every 1975D penny is automatically worth thousands. It is that the right example in extraordinary condition or with a recognized collectible feature can be dramatically more valuable than its 1-cent face value. And that possibility is exactly what keeps collectors searching through old jars, inherited collections, rolls, boxes, and pocket change for the next remarkable Lincoln cent. Important value note for viewers. Market values can change according to grade, certification, color designation, surface quality, varieties, authenticity, buyer demand, and actual auction results. The documented high prices mentioned here apply to exceptional certified examples and should not be interpreted as a guaranteed value for every 1975D Lincoln Memorial penny. A professional grading service or qualified numismatic dealer can provide a more reliable assessment of an individual coin. Next up, the 1981D Lincoln Memorial cent was struck at the Denver Mint, identified by the small D mint mark beneath the date. More than 5.37 billion examples were produced at Denver in 1981, so the real excitement is not simply finding the date and mint mark, it is finding an exceptionally preserved example with the qualities collectors compete for. The 1981D penny belongs to the famous Lincoln Memorial cent series that began in 1959, replacing the original wheat reverse to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. On the obverse, you can see the familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, with "In God We Trust" above him, Liberty beside the portrait, and the date positioned on the opposite side. The reverse features the Lincoln Memorial, along with United States of America, 1 cent, and EPLUOBUSUNUM. The design was created by Victor David Brenner on the obverse and Frank Gasparo on the reverse, making this coin an important part of modern American coinage history. One of the most important details to examine is the D mint mark. A genuine 1981 D was produced at the Denver Mint, and the mint mark gives collectors an immediate way to distinguish it from the Philadelphia issue. The 1981 D has a standard diameter of about 19 millimeters and a weight of approximately 3.11 grams, with a plain edge and a copper composition typical of this era. The coin was made from 95% copper and 5% zinc, giving properly preserved examples the attractive reddish or reddish-brown appearance that collectors often describe with color designations such as RD or RB. Now comes the feature that can make your 1981 D penny especially interesting: condition. A coin described as very uncirculated or near the uncirculated level can preserve much more of its original detail than an ordinary circulated example. Look closely at Lincoln's hair, cheek, jaw, coat, the lettering, the date, and the memorial building. On the reverse, the columns and architectural details of the memorial can remain remarkably sharp when the coin has received little handling. Collectors also pay close attention to original luster and surface quality, because a coin that has retained its natural mint appearance can stand out dramatically from the millions of examples that entered everyday circulation. The strongest examples can become particularly attractive when they combine excellent preservation with desirable original color. Copper Lincoln cents are frequently evaluated by their color designation, and a bright original red appearance can be considerably more desirable than a darker brown example at high grades. This is why two coins carrying exactly the same date and mint mark can have very different market outcomes. The 1981 D is a perfect example of how condition and preservation can transform an ordinary-looking 1-cent coin into a much more interesting collectible. A beautifully preserved coin with sharp details, strong luster, clean surfaces, and attractive original color can capture much more attention from serious Lincoln cent collectors. When collectors talk about rarity, it is important to understand that rarity can exist at different levels. The 1981 D is not a low mintage issue in absolute terms. The Denver Mint produced approximately 5.373 billion pieces. However, collectors are not simply looking for coins that were produced in small numbers. They also look for coins that survived in exceptional condition, particularly at high certified grades. PCGS records an auction result of $345 for a 1981 D Lincoln cent graded MS65BN, showing how dramatically a high-grade certified example can rise above ordinary examples. That is where the idea of a potentially valuable 1981 D penny becomes exciting. A normal circulated example generally does not command hundreds or thousands of dollars simply because it says 1981 D, but an exceptional coin can attract a very different level of collector attention. Current reference data shows ordinary 1981 D examples at relatively modest values, while certified high-grade pieces can bring substantially more, with the documented PCGS auction record reaching $345 for the MS65BN example. For a YouTube audience, this is the key message: do not judge the coin only by its face value. Judge the date, mint mark, preservation, color, strike, surfaces, and grade together. Imagine finding a 1981 D penny that still looks almost as fresh as the day it left the mint. The fields could display attractive original luster, Lincoln's portrait could show impressive detail, and the reverse could reveal strong memorial architecture with clean lettering and minimal distractions. If such a coin also receives a strong professional grade and desirable color designation, it becomes much more interesting to collectors. This is the kind of coin that can create excitement in auctions and specialized Lincoln cent collections, because collectors competing for top-quality examples are searching for coins that look exceptional rather than simply coins that match a date on a checklist. For anyone examining a 1981 D penny today, the most important step is careful inspection. Use good lighting and avoid cleaning the coin, because original surfaces are extremely important in numismatics. Check the date and confirm the D beneath it. Examine Lincoln's portrait for sharpness, inspect the memorial reverse for strong detail, and look carefully for marks, scratches, discoloration, or signs of cleaning. If the coin appears exceptionally preserved, professional grading and authentication can become an important part of establishing its collectible status. A certified grade gives buyers and collectors a standardized way to understand the condition of the coin and can make an exceptional example easier to market. So could a 1981 D Lincoln Memorial penny really be worth hundreds of dollars? The answer is that exceptional certified examples can indeed move far beyond face value, and documented auction results demonstrate that high-grade pieces have reached hundreds of dollars. The strongest values depend on the exact grade, color designation, surface quality, strike, eye appeal, certification, and current buyer demand. The 1981D is therefore a fascinating coin to check because it combines a recognizable American design, a Denver Mint mark, a massive production history, and the possibility of significant premiums for outstanding preservation. And that is exactly why you should never overlook an old Lincoln Memorial cent. A coin that looks like just 1 cent can sometimes tell a much bigger story when you examine it carefully. The 1981D represents an important chapter in the Lincoln cent series, and its best preserved examples demonstrate how dramatically condition can influence collector interest. If you discover one with exceptional luster, strong details, attractive original color, and outstanding preservation, do not rush to spend it. Set it aside, protect it from damage, and consider having an experienced numismatist or professional grading service evaluate it. In the world of coin collecting, the difference between an ordinary example and an exceptional example can be enormous, and that is what makes searching through old Lincoln pennies so exciting. Thanks for watching.